Matthew chapter 6 and verse 33, Jesus said, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness." The Amplified Bible says God's way of doing and God's way of being right, and all of these things will be added unto you. The things that he was talking about was material things, such as food and clothing and drink. Hi, my name is Charles Vance. I'm along with Chief Strategist Terry Sacka, and you're watching The Wealth Transfer. Terry, it's great to see you.
Charles,
it's normal
hi.
today.
How are
Glad
you?
You're along.
Normal. What is normal, right?
Well, it's normal for you to be along on The Wealth Transfer.
You're welcome to The Wealth Transfer, where we like to discuss biblical principles, global economics that are designed to give you information that you're not getting in the systems of the world, so you can protect and preserve your family's wealth for not only your standard of living of your retirement, but for your inheritance to your children, inheritance to your children's children, and of course be there to support the churches and the ministries and to help feed those when this thing hits the fan. When we say, what's this? We're saying and we're contending here to educate you so you can be properly diversified for an economic shockwave that will come in the future. And we want to let you know here, myself, I am the Chief Strategist and Analyst. I come across with an accredited asset management specialist designation. Used to work with A.G. Edwards as a financial advisory. I understand the systems of the world. I am the analyst at Cornerstone, and we are refiners and minters of fine silver for folks for physical delivery to their homes and or for IRAs. But I'm here for the knowledge of the system of mining and financial, and then Charles, of course, is long for the good biblical wisdom.
Well, I've been a pastor for 20 plus years. My dad was a pastor for 30 years prior to that, but I worked in the construction business. I actually owned a construction company. We did upscale homes and small businesses in our area. In addition to that, we owned a retail store and have had some other investments. I actually still hold a general contractor's license in our area, and we live in the state of West Virginia right now. West Virginia is the second poorest state, used to be the first poorest state in the Union. We kind of bounce back and forth with Mississippi, I believe. The poorest state per capita in the Union, but yet we have birthed several millionaires out of our church because we believe in this principle of wealth transfer.
Yes.
And really, whether you believe it or not, it's taking place.
It's taking place, all right.
I've heard people preach all of my life that in the ends of time, and I don't know what they mean by that because time is eternal, but they talk about the end times, there will be a great transfer of wealth to the righteous people. But you have to understand what the Bible calls righteous, because Jesus called righteous people, or people that were right, people that we would call just regular people, and people that he called wicked and slothful were people that we call just regular people. So you have to position yourself in order to be ready for wealth to be transferred to you. That's one of the things that this program is about. Yep. We collaborated our knowledge probably 3 years ago, and I pushed on you for about a year, and finally your wife convinced you that the body of Christ needs this information.
Yeah, because the information we're giving is not information that they're going to get typically in the media. The biggest problem we have is the deception the world is giving you of information. What you think the unemployment number is, what you think the economic numbers are, they're not true. And we've been on, we started with the BRICS nations last week, and then we talked about briefly about most people's retirement accounts, of course, that are in the market system. Most people's retirement accounts are brokerages, or you have currency that's in the banking system. Remember, currency that's in the banking system is in jeopardy when this event comes down the road here, because you're third in line to be repaid from an FDIC insurance that only has $25 billion in it and has 90 years to pay you back. So if we have a systemic problem like we did in 2008, we contend 2008 was just the beginning. Unfortunately, what's really going on is this is a cycle, pure and simple. We've worn out the dollar standard. It's well over 40 years old. Our time is up. We've stretched the rubber band. 2008 was just a hiccup. And if you knew how close in 2008 we were to complete collapse globally, you'd understand why what's coming here soon, nothing more than a global realignment. I even think and contend it may be a reset of all currencies. Now, if this is unprecedented, of course, And for those of us that have just been working and growing up and not paying attention, we realize we're going to see something we've never seen before and we'll never see again. Problem is, if we're on the wrong side of the fence when this happens, we are going to lose a tremendous amount. Remember those in 2008, how much you lost in your retirement and your IRA? A lot of them are barely breaking even.
Here,
hate to tell you, the inflation is, you're not breaking even.
Can I throw this in that mix? We talk about people losing stuff.
Because someone's, yes.
But somebody else got it.
Yes.
It doesn't just dissipate. It doesn't, people lose a house, they say, so-and-so lost, and we don't make light of that. That's a horrible tragedy that takes place.
Still going on.
Somebody losing money, they didn't lose it. It didn't like it disappeared, you dropped it in the ocean. It actually was transferred somewhere.
Yes.
And people that are in the know, you don't have to be a crook to be in a position to have money and wealth being transferred to you. Mm-hmm. In fact, if we're wise, the Bible says that the blessing of the Lord will make us rich and not add any sorrow with it. Mm-hmm. So we need to be wise enough to operate in what the Bible calls the blessing of the Lord, get ourselves positioned so that when wealth begins to move, it moves toward us and not away from us.
And see, it already has. 2008 was the hiccup in the beginning, but remember, since then, of course, we used to pay $1 for gas, and now we're paying close to $4. Our housing values are not even close to what they were back then in 2006-07. Most of us in the stock market that are in the markets, your 401ks, your IRAs, are barely breaking even. Some of you probably making some money now, but if you knew the real inflation number, you would never say that you're even close. So remember, there's a perception that we've got to get around that what happened, wealth already transferred, Charles. Remember, $1 gas to $4, oil companies are getting rich. All of this transfer is moving around, but what is it doing? It's moving away from you and I and going to other sources. If you're on the right side of the fence, you can protect and preserve your family, because we're on this BRIC nations issue here, and the BRIC nations are, bluntly, they don't really like us.
And we need to,
so we need to be cautious on that.
Let's real quickly do what the BRIC nations are again, so that people understand what you're talking about.
BRIC nations are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They forged an alliance to do trade and international finance in their own currencies, when before the dollar was always in the middle of every transaction.
The U.S. dollar.
The U.S. dollar. So when the U.S. dollar is in less demand, when we've printed trillions more, we're saying that what happened in 2008 is going to be far greater, because these BRICS are growing strong. And as the dollar gets marginalized, I believe it's going to be an event, Charles. An event that is going to force the dollar to be marginalized from its status as the premier reserve currency. And I think this event is soon. So when this event takes place, your retirement, your hard-earned wealth, your inheritance is going to be in jeopardy. So the BRIC nations are pushing the buttons on this, and don't think for a minute they really do like us. Obviously, Russia doesn't care for us. China, too. China has forged, and we're going to show more details, China has forged agreements around the world bypassing the dollar in very key and strategic places over the last 5 years, 7 years, and a lot of them in energy, which we're going to get to in a few weeks. And so you've got to understand the BRICS power in the ability to basically, I know Charles put it this way, isolate the dollar out. And why is that important to you? Your retirement is in this. Your saving in this, in the banking system is in this. We talked about that last week, that the banking system is not there to protect you if you knew the FDIC rules, if you knew the banking rules when they collapse. You're in this, that's currency, and when the BRIC nations pull off what they're trying to do, we're fighting, don't get me wrong, that's why Ukraine is happening. But when they start pushing and China starts rising as they are, this will start going down. Your retirement is in jeopardy for its ability to buy things and preserve it for your inheritance. The best inheritance we could possibly think of would be something like this. It's been around since day one. If you've had silver all along, you'd be a millionaire today. And we're saying you need to be properly diversified in hard, tangible assets. So before we get into some of the imagery here, for those that do have IRAs, 401ks to protect, keep in mind being properly diversified is absolutely essential here. Give us a call, register on this website. We will send this package out that's loaded with global and U.S. economic data and how simply and easy it is to roll over to a physical precious metals IRA. Because the nice part about a physical precious metals IRA, nobody is counterparty to it. It's yours. And you can hand it down to your children if you choose to in the future. It should be the last asset you sell. But then all we know is if you've been holding it all along, how wealthy you'd be, not counting when this dollar loses tremendous value.
Terry, I was watching a national television reality show on one of the pawn shop stores. And a guy had taken in about $100 million or $100,000 plus of silver that he had kept for about 10 years, and it increased tremendously in value. Guy that owned the pawn shop said that they thought that silver was being depleted because it was the same thing that you say, because it's being used by industry.
Yeah.
And it's actually running out. He actually used that wording.
I'm glad to hear someone saying that, because actually, since 2004, annually, we've been using more silver in industry than we have that we're producing out of the ground. And this counts recycling. So we are negative. And the bottom line is we had 12 billion ounces of silver above ground in like 1900. Today, roughly 700 million. So there is a very finite supply of silver.
And they were collecting it because of that. They were.
That's correct.
When it came into their stores, they would grab hold of it and
I can see that.
Put it in
because
a place where the
silver was considered like a junk metal, and the people look at the price of it and think, it's worthless. Well, you don't realize it's being manipulated. 250 ounces of silver on paper for every one real physical ounce for delivery in the system.
No, that's in the stock market.
That's in the stock market. They're manipulating the price. So they're keeping it down.
So you don't want to buy a stock that is selling silver and gold.
You want the real.
You want the real thing.
You want to be able to have it. Now, it could be stored in a vault. It could be sent home. I get it. But you want to be able to have it.
Absolutely.
In your possession. If it's in a vault, it's in your name, a certificate of deposit. Because
and it's all there.
It's all there, of course. Absolutely. Because the reason they're collecting it is the manipulated price is so reasonable right now. When these nations continue to rise against the dollar and the dollar loses its value, I don't think the dollar gets completely wiped out. We're a pretty viable nation, but we're going to lose a lot of value. We're going to have a lot of inflation. That inflation is going to eat away. Remember, you used to pay $1 for gas, now you pay $4, and that's all across the board with food and clothes and education and everything you do. That's the standard of living we're talking about. But those that have this, or they've had it all their life, still pay 20 cents a gallon for gas. So you have to kind of understand why storing this in retirement versus the paper system is important, because the BRICS are attacking our currency.
You said those that had this are still paying 20 cents a gallon for gas, but what you meant is this value has so increased relative to the dollar, and the dollar actually has gone down. This has stayed the same. That all they have to do is, with their investments, cash it in. They're still just paying 20 cents as it were.
That's exactly right.
So
and I know I kind of left that out for you to kind of go, huh?
Well,
but yeah, that's exactly right.
I just had to break things down. As a minister, you have to break things down little bites.
Yeah,
so people
because
can get it.
I really wanted to just make the point that as your purchasing power in paper currency, and mind you, that's the stock market and the bond market, goes down, your ability to buy something is being deteriorated.
You know, we had some people in this area. I remember when gasoline took the huge leap up to about $4 here just 4 or 5 years ago. There were people that couldn't afford to drive to work.
Oh, I know.
And it probably was everywhere during that time period, whenever that was taking place. I can't remember when that huge jump was. But then they finally tried to adjust, and they were putting other things aside, and the system just keeps causing the prices of things to inflate, but yet your wages are not increasing at that same rate.
That's right.
So it's causing people to live on a lower standard. We don't have to do that if we understand what's going on economically. I want to go back to this BRICS thing, because this is interesting to me.
Well, it's important because the BRICS are putting the pressure on this and deteriorating its ability to be premier, meaning the value is going to start dropping even more. When the event happens, and I believe it's happening in the BRICS, attack on the dollar, the dominance of the dollar, your savings in retirement and so forth and your standard of living is going to dramatically decrease. So we want to be properly prepared because now who are the BRICS, as we said? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Let's show the image of the leaders. The image of the leaders here, these are the actual leaders of these nations. I want you to visualize this. There they are meeting right there. That's the BRIC leaders meeting. Now that one was just 2011, but in China. But now some of those leaders have actually changed. They did because that's Russian Medved, and now it's Putin. But these leaders, these are the countries right there representing the BRICS. And you can take that off. Now they're serious about this. They don't like us or our dollar dominance because us printing dollars has forced inflation to their countries, forcing energy to be expensive for them, forcing their food prices to go higher.
But because at this point they've been trading everything with American
yes,
currency,
and so it's costing
US
more
currency.
Of theirs to buy our dollar because our dollar's losing so much value. Remember, the dollar's lost 40% of its value in 10 years since 9/11. This is really important to get. Those leaders are coming after us because if you look at it, those countries are rising in economic power. That's why we got to watch it. Now, we're strong, but we're not the only ones like after World War II. Things have changed, and the reckoning is coming when you're going to see a dollar standard shift, and I believe a global reset and other powers are rising. You need to be properly protected for that.
You correct me if I'm wrong because you have the knowledge in this area. Is the currency of a country, if we never printed any more currency, would our currency be tied to the ability that we have to produce and our natural resources? Is that where the currency would be tied to, or be connected?
It's tied to how much is printed. It's all supply demand of the printed.
It's totally on how much is printed.
Yeah, it has nothing to, now it is backed by what they call the good faith and credit of our country, which to some extent our country is backed by certain resources, but it's not tied to any form of a natural resource. This is why it's so dangerous.
So it's like the stock market. The stock market's really not tied to any resource
fake.
either.
It's fake.
All on how it's manipulated the prices up and down.
Yeah, because we've printed trillions. It's like a piece of pie. If we had a piece of pie and you had half the pie at one point, today you would maybe get one little cherry in the pie. So you see, you're going to starve in the future.
You just keep cutting the slices smaller and smaller.
And you're going to starve. And what's happening is we were dominant in the world. We controlled everything, and the BRIC nations are rising, and they're starting to control. I mean, look at this image here in the U.S. BRICS GDP. Now, this is their gross domestic product, the ability to produce. Now, look at that. Look at the BRICS are in black in the G6 there, but look at how in 2010, 20, look at the projection of them. That is really, really important. In less than 40 years, the projection of the BRICS overtaking the world economy is enormous.
So they're going to actually be producing more product?
Producing everything.
Everything more than
what you just saw right there, that chart shows the projection, basically meaning the control. Do you know China uses more energy than the United States does? They buy more oil from Saudi Arabia than we do. China has become the world's largest trading nation, not the United States. This is so important to understand because when these BRIC nations attack the US dollar, your retirement, your storage of currency in the banks or in your mattress or bonds, anything you're holding is in a lot of jeopardy. If you think 2008 was a big deal, wait until you see what's getting ready to come. And I contend it's coming quicker. I contend soon. And I'm saying real soon. I don't want to give you the exact date because it'll kind of give it away a little bit, but I'm talking about overnight, literally, it's going to happen. The challenge is already in place. The foundation for this BRIC nation is in place. They're already doing it. And if you knew the level of detail on what the BRICS are doing, the best example of it, I'm going to get into, it's called the Silk Road Revival. from China. Now, this is an ancient trade route, but when you see this, you're going to understand how absolutely vital it is, because the Chinese have built an empire. They own our debt, remember. Remember, $2 trillion of our debt, they own us. We don't own them. They own us. People think, oh, but they need us. I think you're going to be surprised at what happens when this thing shifts. And so for those that have IRAs and 401ks to protect, real quick, register on this website, give us a call. We'll send out this package loaded with data on economics of the U.S., global trade pacts as to why the dollar's days are numbered, and how simply and easy it is to roll over into a physical precious metals IRA, because when the dollar gets hit and attacked, the best thing to protect you will be this, because this goes up when the dollar goes down, and for those that have had it all along are incredibly more wealthy than those that didn't, because it was just bluntly, before we go into it, let's do it this way. $100,000 of these 10 years ago is only worth $60,000 today in buying power. That's a fact. It's lost 40%.
So what that could have purchased 10 years ago,
yes,
with $100,000, you can only purchase $60,000.
You can only purchase $60,000 worth of the same thing. That's right. So you've lost $40,000 holding on to this in 10 years. For those that have held this for 10 years, silver, the same $100,000 is worth $500,000. So I don't know if for retirement, you want $500,000 in the future, 40,000 or 60,000. But here's the thing. Oh, that was the past. We have printed trillions. Just to pay back the debt we have now, it's going to cost us $30 trillion that we don't have.
Because of the interest.
Because of the interest and the principal.
Yeah.
And we have $60 trillion of obligations for retirees in the baby boomer generation. That's $100 trillion. Where are we getting the money? I'm saying it's not going to happen. There's going to be a reset. We're going to have a new monetary system, and the BRIC nations are pushing the buttons, and this is why it's so important.
Let me ask this: even if that doesn't happen, if everything just keeps meandering along the way
it's just possible too.
And if it does, there's still, and we've said this over and over again, if you invest in things that God creates, tangible items, gold, silver, land, water, food, oil, it's always going to increase in value because it is finite, and this currency system makes this infinite. They just keep going back and printing more and more of it, loaning it to the government to pay off debts with it and to pay interest. And when they run out of that, they keep doing. And this is not just happening in the U.S.
No, it's global.
The World Bank and the IMF have almost globalized this in all nations.
But the World Bank, hold on, the World Bank and the IMF is the West.
Yeah.
No, the BRIC nations have their own World Bank.
Okay.
The BRICS don't use the World Bank. The BRICS have what they call the BRICS Bank. They just developed it. I know.
Wow.
They have the BRICS Bank. So the World Bank and the IMF don't think it's global. BRICS are fighting that.
But all industrialized nations are doing this stuff the same way.
Yeah, but China is industrialized, wouldn't you say, right? Better than we are?
Yeah, but China is producing.
But they're the BRICS nation.
One of the things that we were talking about the other day, actually coming from the airport, is that there are consumers and there are producers in the world. Nations become consumers and producers. Unfortunately, it seems like the United States is right on the edge of exceeding their production with consumption.
That's right.
When you do that, then you have to purchase products from people that are producing more than they're consuming.
Yes.
We have been producers for years.
Yes, no longer.
But now we're not doing that. Our balance is not right.
No.
And
it's been wrong for a long time.
Absolutely.
That's why 2008 happened. Our balance has been wrong for so long. 2008 happened because it finally coiled out and exploded. What we're saying is the next explosion is real soon, because not only did we not fix the problem, we actually added 6 to 7 trillion more to our deficit, And we've actually increased more in cost for Medicaid, Medicare, especially with a new health system and other expenditures. And now we have illegal aliens flooding over the border, taking jobs away from Americans that don't even have jobs. So we have some serious reckoning. I think the world is going to see the weakness of our ability. The only thing we have left isn't financial, because we used to be the world's largest lender, now the world's largest creditor, now the world's largest debtor. We have more debt now than anyone in the history of the world. The BRICS know this. They sense our weakness. Granted, we have the best military in the world, but the military can only go so far because we keep spending money. Soon it's going to be at home that the unrest takes place, especially when this dollar gets marginalized. Because the BRIC leaders, China leading the way, is forming what we call the Silk Road Revival. This is really important, because the core of the BRICS is Chinese, because they're the producers. That's where all the manufacturing facilities are. They're rebuilding the Silk Road Revival. So let's kind of put that up just to kind of see the picture, because remember, this is ancient trade routes of silk back in the day. See that image there? Now you see China, and then on the right, you see the red line going around on the bottom. On the top, you see the jagged line, like the dotted line. The dotted line is a railroad system that is going all the way through Russia into Europe. The red line and the yellow line down below is the shipping system. That is the ancient Silk Road, back in the day when China was dominant for the silk production. That is setting up the new power structure of global trade for goods and service. If you noticed, it's all been implemented all the way around India and right up into the Middle East. You notice where that Silk Road goes? Right into the heart of the Middle East. And then above, through Russia, to the heart of Europe. Remember, Russia is part of the BRICS. So you can take that off, but that image, you've got to grab it, because the Chinese have successfully, I mean successfully, put together a trade route system logistically to dominate the world's trade, and we've allowed it, thinking we were controlling it because we were dominant. We are losing tremendous status because of the pressure the BRICS are placing on us. And wait until you see some of the images of what that really means in economics to us, because remember why that matters. They're challenging our weakness, and they're seeing that we are no longer the premier dominant because we're in so much debt. So when this dollar corrects, your IRAs and 401ks are in jeopardy. So give us a call, register on our website, transfer over into a physical precious metals IRA, store your assets in something tangible and real, so when this happens, you won't be caught off guard. And remember, make Jesus Christ the center of your life, and the truth shall set you free. See you next week.
You can watch these programs on demand at Cornerstone Asset Metals. We'll be back same place, same time next week for more of the Wealth Transfer. See you then.